Talk about a sunny day across central Oregon, and for this Wednesday, temperatures are still running a little below average for this time of the year, but our warming trend is not over yet. Hey everyone, good evening. I'm Darrell Winninger, the Chief Meteorologist at Central Oregon Daily News, and we're about to do a deep dive into your most reliable forecast. Look at the changes we've already had and what comes next. What this Independence Day weekend is going to bring and just how hot it's going to be through the holiday weekend. All that and more coming up through the next several minutes, so buckle up. It's going to be fun. We're starting off with what it looks like right here, right now. Across Central Oregon, tons of sunshine, limited cloud cover at best. And for most of the high desert, our air quality has been sitting in the green all day. Good air quality, even though you can see a little bit of haze. Now, going forward through the next few days, we're tracking a couple things, but for the most part, this broad ridge of high pressure that's out over the Pacific Ocean, centered a little bit behind my head right there, that's what's going to be impacting us. And under this sunshine, temperatures continue to heat little by little each day. Now, by tomorrow, on Thursday, we are expecting some additional clouds, mostly through the afternoon and evening hours. Just no rain in sight expected at all. So when it comes to your headlines, is sunshine and big heating, that takes the top two headlines. And it's all being driven by that broad ridge of high pressure. And with that no rain in sight, it really stays that way through most of the 7-day planner. A few changes early next week, but that has a lot to do with the heating trend that we're going to continue in. So when it comes to not just the cameras that look at the sky, but the cameras that look at the roads, we see a lot of shadows on the ground. Traffic is rolling smoothly, and that those shadows are just indicative of the sunshine we've been seeing. By tomorrow, we start off cool and clear, and by the afternoon, that additional cloud cover is expected. But even by 5 p.m., we're still dry, and it's all because of that high pressure that's still way out over the Pacific Ocean. Now, there is some convection between Idaho and Montana, even getting into Wyoming, and that is some thunderstorm activity. It's just not coming anywhere near us. And one of the reasons for that is because our high pressure is just wringing out the atmosphere. There's not a lot of moisture at all, and our water vapor imagery shows just that, a couple slots of dry air impacting the coastline and the Pacific Northwest. Now, when you see those white lines on there, those are isobars, and where you have them tightly stacked up next to each other, winds are just breezy. So coming down the east slopes of the Cascades, we do have stronger winds, and your forecast model shows that those winds start to taper off later on this evening. Still dry, still not much in the way of cloud cover. Tomorrow starts off cool and clear, and by the midday and afternoon hours, we start to see a little bit of cloud development. But remember, we're still under the influence of this broad ridge of high pressure, which typically brings the three S's of high pressure: sunshine, stability, and as we go forward, it's just not going to bring much at all in the way of cloud cover. And with that stability usually comes subsidence, and subsidence is the atmosphere just pushing down towards the surface, and that helps keep it clear even more. That's what we're expecting through the day on Friday. Under this sunshine, it stays dry again, and some PM clouds are expected. Winds could pick up at times. We're talking 5 to 15 miles per hour by the afternoon, with some of those gusts reaching to that 20 mile per hour marker. Now, it's pretty dry, and relative humidity, which is measured in percentage, is mostly sitting in the 20s and 30s, so between 25% humidity to 36% humidity. A couple of the outliers include Sisters, which is at 46%, and Paulina, which is at 15%. Now, as we go through the rest of this work week and the beginning of July, we're getting even drier each day, and so by the time we hit Friday and even Saturday on Independence Day, we're looking at critically dry conditions across Central Oregon. Meanwhile, temperatures have topped out today mostly in the 70s and 60s across the high desert, and they're actually sitting still in the 60s and 70s. Now, the average high temperature for this time of the year is 83. We haven't seen anything near 83 in quite a bit, but the next couple of days, this warm-up takes us a little bit closer to that. And when it comes to the temperature change, right now we're running between 1 degree cooler and 4 degrees warmer than 24 hours ago. Tomorrow, we're going to add another 5 to 6 degrees to that. So for tonight, we fall back into the 40s and 30s, and it's going to be a gradual cool down through the evening, but after sunset, it gets cool pretty quickly. And then through the day, Thursday, we're going to be topping out in the mid to upper 70s with some 80s out there. And our UV intensity is going to be very high, even with the additional cloud cover tomorrow afternoon. It's just going to slow it down a little bit. So if you're doing anything outdoors, either tomorrow going to Munchin Music or through this holiday weekend, this Independence Day weekend, spending a lot of time outdoors, pack that sunscreen, bring it, reapply it every couple of hours, and when in doubt, seek the shade, because with UV intensity forecasts, it's going to be very high. It doesn't take much to start to feel the impacts from that, to get a little bit of tan and then a sunburn. So use sunscreen and reapply. Also stay hydrated across Central Oregon this week, and this heat is going to end up being no joke. By tomorrow, it's still going to be a little pleasantly warmer, but then it gets even hotter. So through Thursday, 70s and a few 80s. We'll call that warmer. And by Friday, we're talking 80s for most of Central Oregon. Still a little breezy at times, and that high pressure continues to build into the Pacific Northwest. Temperatures top out in the 80s with a few 90s by Independence Day. So Saturday heats up even more. Sunday, we're not done heating, and by Monday, that'll be the hottest day out of this stretch. And we're looking at 90s with some 80s on the map. So when it comes to future precipitation, overall we are looking at mostly just dry conditions across the high desert. And as our warming trend, or I should say our heating trend, continues, the next chance of rain holds off till Monday. That's not even a good chance. We're looking at the potential for some sprinkles as our high pressure starts to flatten just a little bit, which means weaken. Now, your forecast model does show that through the next couple of days, even with the additional cloud cover on Thursday, we have no precipitation at all expected. And then by Friday and Saturday, stronger winds are in the planner by the afternoon hours. More sunshine is expected, and fire danger is going to be elevated across Central Oregon. But let's look at the long-range forecast model. The first 72 hours, very similar to what we were seeing with the other one. This is one I typically don't use on air every night, but it really helps paint the picture of what's going to happen past the next several days, past our regular forecast model. And so by Monday, we do have a chance for a few sprinkles across parts of the high desert, and by Tuesday, tons of sunshine. By Wednesday, getting back to that sunny stretch that we're expecting through the next couple of days. So between now and Saturday at 11 p.m., nada, no rain in sight. And then going forward, I hit the wrong button. I went backwards there. And then going forward past that, we're actually looking at a chance, the potential for some showers by the time we get to Monday. So by Tuesday at 5 p.m., a few sprinkles will have pushed through parts of Central Oregon. Now, when it comes to gusts, it's not too bad right now. Some of our gusts between 20 and 25 miles per hour. Actual wind speeds at the moment are more like 10 to 15, 10 to 20 miles per hour, and still out of the north and the northwest. And that 10 to 20 mile per hour range is right where the forecast had us, and it stays like that until around sunset. That's when winds start to taper and temperatures start to crash. And it's going to be chilly again tonight. Through the day Thursday, breezy at times. By the afternoon, not too bad. By Friday, breezy at times, not too bad. And then Saturday and Sunday winds are going to be picking up a little bit more. And that is going to actually worsen our fire danger levels just a little bit. So for tonight, 40s with some 30s. By tomorrow, you can expect 70s with a few 80s on the map. And this is just the continuance of this warming trend that actually brings us into the 80s to wrap up the work week. 87, 88, 91, through the 80s and into the lower 90s by the beginning of next week. During that entire time between now and Monday of next week, no precipitation. By Monday afternoon, that's when there is a chance for a few PM showers. And anything that develops, we're going to be tracking for the potential of thunderstorm activity. But even after that, it's still going to be near and above average for this time of the year. So temperatures come back down just a little bit, and that is that high pressure weakening ever so slightly. Now, when it comes to your weather headlines, summertime sunshine, oh yeah, that's about to be back in full force, especially as we wrap up the work week. And it's going to be a rain-free forecast with breezy winds at times, and then we heat right into this weekend. Now, when it comes to satellite and radar, there's not much to actually talk about over the Tri-County area. It's why I saved it till the very end. In fact, we have to not only just zoom out to the state level to catch much at all in the way of cloud cover, but we have to go all the way over to Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. That's where there are some showers. That's where the closest thunderstorm activity is, and that's where there is a single severe thunderstorm warning over Montana. But for Central Oregon, there's no precipitation in sight, and our warming trend is just going to continue. So that is the latest in weather. Join us tonight on Central Oregon Daily News. We'll have the latest headlines and your most reliable forecasts. Our next show at 6 p.m. on ABC and at CBS. We'll see you then.